नमस्कार। देश की सर्वोच्च पंचायत में लोकहित पर होने वाली चर्चा के कार्यक्रम संसद संवाद में आप सभी का स्वागत है। मैं हूं प्रीति सिंह। संसद के बजट सत्र के दूसरे चरण में दिवाला और शोधन अक्षमता संहिता संशोधन विधेयक 2020 राज्यसभा में पास हो गया। विधेयक के कानून बन जाने के बाद दिवाला प्रक्रिया में जाने वाली कंपनियों की ओर से पूर्व में की गई अनियमितताओं के सिलसिले में बोली लगाने वाली कंपनियों को जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहराया जा सकेगा। विधेयक दिवाला और शोधन अक्षमता संहिता संशोधन अध्यादेश 2020 का स्थान लेगा। आइए देखते हैं राज्यसभा में आईबीसी संशोधन विधेयक 2020 पर हुई चर्चा का सारांश।
The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2020 to be discussed together. Sri K.K. Ragesh, Dr. T. Subramanian Reddy, Yelamaram Karim to move the following resolution.
Sir, I move the statutory resolution.
Right.
Thank you.
Resolution moved. Now the Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, to move a motion for consideration of the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code Bill 2020.
Sir, I rise to move that the bill further to amend the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 as passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration.
The motion moved. Oh, please, now.
Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, as the honorable members are aware, was a necessity of the times, and 2016 when it was passed because till then the various acts which had come in for giving relief for companies were more debtor controlled rather than giving a solution towards keeping the possibility that a company can be kept alive even after getting into a distressed position. The various examples are all before us: the Sikh Industries Companies Act, the SICA, and after that you had the BIFR, then the SURFACE, all of which had their role. Each one of them had their role to play. However, the desired results were not really coming, and therefore there was a need felt for introducing Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. But subsequent to it, after the introduction, even though it's only about 3 years now, several amendments had been brought in just to keep in pace with the developments which are happening in the outside world, if I can use that expression. The courts and also the various tribunals which were also using the IBC. Also given the fact that we had quite a few constraints in terms of bringing in enough required manpower and endowments which are required for the tribunals such as the NCLT and NCLAT, and the interpretations given by the various honorable courts, and therefore there was a need periodically to come back to this respected house to have the amendments brought in so that we keep pace with the developments outside. The last time we did bring in an amendment, there was a problem in that because of the various considerations, the House could not take it up for discussion, and therefore there was a need to bring in an ordinance. The ordinance is in place, and today probably is the last date. It should be expiring tonight. 13th is the interpretation given by the Parliamentary Affairs Ministry. So now there is an urgent need for the House to consider this. Lok Sabha has already passed this bill, which comes in to replace the ordinance which is in place, which expires today or tomorrow. So I would want this House to take up the bill for consideration. It's essentially what is exactly being presented in the ordinance. Post the ordinance and after the introduction in the Lok Sabha, this set of amendments have gone through the standing committee. The committee has had a look into the details. Many of its recommendations have been considered by the ministry. However, it is the ordinance which, with all its amendments which are coming in as it is, the ordinance is getting replaced. We've gone through the standing committee, but none of which is being taken on board at the moment. So it's exact replacement of the ordinance which I want the House to consider and do pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The statute resolution and the motion for consideration of the bill are now open for discussion. Sri Jairam Ramesh.
Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code was first introduced in June of 2016. And since then, we've had this House pass 3 amendment bills. And this is the 4th round of amendments that we are bringing into the bill, into the code. And I have had an occasion to speak on every opportunity. And we are learning as we are going along. We are learning, we are responding to court decisions, we are responding to market conditions. And it is in the nature of this code that this will be continuously under review. And therefore, there is nothing extraordinary about the amendments that we are discussing today. So, my comments are going to be threefold. First, there is a particular clause in the bill which invites special comment. This bill, when the ordinance was issued, it was referred to a standing committee. The Standing Committee on Finance is a star-studded committee. It is headed by a former Minister of State for Finance. It has the former Finance Minister and Prime Minister as a member. It has many distinguished members as members of the Standing Committee on Finance. In fact, the only one who is missing from the Standing Committee on Finance is the man who wishes to be Finance Minister, who will be unnamed. Now, sir, there are a number of dissent notes in this report of the Standing Committee. However, there is one recommendation of the Standing Committee which is unanimous. All members in the Standing Committee subscribe to this recommendation, but yet I find the Finance Minister has not accepted the combined and collective wisdom of the Standing Committee. And this refers, sir, to clause 5B2A. In simple language, what it means is that if a company is under examination by the resolution professional, the resolution professional can dictate that companies will continue to supply goods and services to this company that is being restructured. So the casualty of this clause are going to be MSME companies. Medium, small, and micro, medium, and small enterprises are now being mandated by law to continue supplying goods and services to a bankrupt company where the risk of default is very high. So the Standing Committee had made an examination of this clause and had unanimously recommended that this clause be deleted, because this clause interferes with a contractual relationship between a supplier and the debtor company. And there are no safeguards provided in the bill to protect the interests of these vendors and suppliers who are usually MSME companies. So my request to the Honorable Finance Minister is to revisit this clause 5B2A and, if need be, introduce safeguards at a later stage to ensure that the risk of default of the supplier companies is eliminated. You are now eliminating the risk for the debtor companies. You want the IBC to look good. You want to get good value after liquidation. And those are laudable objectives. But in that process, you should not sacrifice the interest of MSME vendors. And I would request the Honorable Finance Minister, like such codes in other countries have safeguards to protect the interests of the vendors, we also should introduce these safeguards, preferably in law, if not in the main act, at least certainly in the delegated legislation. So, my second point relates to the MSME sector. Now, on every occasion that I have spoken, I have highlighted the fact that we need a special regime for the MSME sectors. You cannot treat the MSME sector on par with the big corporates for whom the IBC is really meant. And the basic point is that the MSME becomes sick, not because of any willful default, but because of competitive pressures, because of family problems, because of cash flow problems, and most importantly, because of delayed payments. And this is an endemic problem in India. Over 40% of the sickness in the MSME sector, sir, is attributable to delayed payments. And these are payments made by big companies, payments made by public sector companies, payments made by government companies. Now, last year, in June of 2019, the Reserve Bank of India had set up an expert committee on the MSME sector under the chairmanship of Sri UK Sinha, a very distinguished former chairman of SEBI. This committee submitted its report, and I invite the finance minister's attention to the recommendations made by this expert committee of the RBI. Now, this calls for amendments not to the IBC, but it calls for amendments to the MSME Act 2006. And I have made this point earlier, and I wish to reiterate that, sir, we need a special IBC treatment for the MSME sector. The recommendations that have been made by the UK Sinha committee, which said that the IBC provides for a differentiated regime for insolvency and bankruptcy of firms, proprietary firms, and individuals. Delegated legislation and rules in this regard are under consideration. The finalization of these rules can boost lender confidence. So the most important step that the government has to take is to ensure that every MSME uploads its invoices. If information is not available on accounts receivable, then the MSME is not going to benefit. Today, under the IBC, firms are obligated through an information utility to make information on accounts receivable in the public domain so that you know for this company that is defaulting how much money is owed to which company. This regime does not exist for the MSME sector. This calls for an amendment to the MSME Act, and I think that every MSME which has an accounts receivable in excess of, say, 1 crore should mandatorily upload its invoices so that it is in a position to invoke the clause of the IBC, because as the Honorable Finance Minister knows, most MSMEs in our country are basically come into the category of operational creditors. And you have given priority to secured creditors, financial creditors, and you have treated operational creditors on a different footing. And because the MSME sector is so crucial for employment, for exports, and for balanced regional development, I think we need to revisit the IBC from the point of view of the MSME sector, and this would call for amendments not so much in the IBC itself, but in the MSME Act of 2006. So finally, let me come to the IBC itself. We've had 4 years of the IBC, and the question that can naturally be asked is what has been the impact so far? So first of all, I'd like to congratulate the IBBI, the Insolvency Board, Bankruptcy Board of India, for bringing out a quarterly newsletter, which is on the website, which is called Insolvency and Bankruptcy News. It's a very detailed newsletter, and anybody can access it, and it contains a wealth of information on what exactly is happening to the implementation of the IBC. So, when you look at the numbers that have been put by the IBBI itself in the public domain, let's go through some of these numbers. There have been 3,312 cases that have been referred to the IBC so far. So, out of these 3,312 cases, 970 cases have been closed under the IBC. 970 have been closed. Out of these 970 cases that have been closed, 780 have been liquidated, which means the mortality rate is 80%. So, Madam Finance Minister, when the IBBI says that our first objective is saving life, having a mortality rate of 80% is not saving life. Having a mortality rate of 80% is euthanasia, is actually putting to death a lot of companies. And as I will explain to you later, the employment implications of this are quite frightening and quite staggering itself. So the second point that comes out from the numbers that are available on the website is that, and this the government has taken credit for in various forums, that the claims that have been admitted so far under the resolution category are 3,51,000 crores. They have realized 1,50,000 crores. The recovery is 43%, or to use the language of the bankers, the haircut is only 57%. Not a bad average. When you have 43% of your hair remaining, you are still not completely bald. Your haircut is only 57%. But sir, these figures you have to examine these figures much more carefully. If you remove 7 companies, Electro Steel, Bhushan Steel, Monet Ispat, SR Steel, Alok Industries, Bhushan Power and Steel, and Jyoti Structures. Remove these 7 big defaulting companies, the figure that comes is that the total amount that you have realized is only 10%. In other words, the haircut is 90%. So while the big cases have to be pursued, I think the Honorable Finance Minister is perfectly well aware of the fact that if you exclude these big cases, the IBC recovery is only 10%. I think this is a very low rate of recovery. And I think that is a matter of great concern. There are 780 companies that have gone into liquidation. And if you look at the data that is available on the website, a large number of these liquidation cases have been taken up, and 51 of these liquidations have reached final stage. Now, the claims for these 51 liquidations are 9,870 crores. The creditors have received only 96 crores. That means the recovery is just 1%. So the basic point I'm making is that IBC is a transformational piece of legislation. It's a huge step forward. 4 years later, it is work in progress. But the recovery rates that we are seeing are nowhere the recovery rates that we hoped they would be. And I think we need to understand the reasons why these recovery rates are low. We need to pay further attention to legal changes, to changes in the way the NCLT operates, the way the IBC itself operates. And I think the ultimate objective of the IBC is, in fact, to improve the recovery rates. But if the recovery rates are as they are, then I'm afraid we cannot say that the IBC has been a success. So I think in the interest of the IBC itself, I request the Honorable Finance Minister to revisit the IBC in its relationship to the MSME sector.
Yes.
I request the Honorable Finance Minister to look at the recovery rates so that the recovery rates are at least in the region of 40 to 50%, which they certainly are not in today's circumstances. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
आप बने रहिए हमारे साथ। मिलते हैं एक ब्रेक के बाद। जारी है दिवाला और शोधन अक्षमता संहिता संशोधन विधेयक 2020 पर संसद संवाद।
We have also seen in some of the cases the past management has done many things which are not in compliance with the law, and many cases are pending against that. Now, a new person who takes over for whatever cost and whatever scheme, suppose that he is also subject to prosecution under those laws. Believe me, sir, nobody will touch that unit.
आप देख रहे हैं राज्यसभा में दिवाला और शोधन अक्षमता संहिता संशोधन विधेयक 2020 पर हुई चर्चा का सारांश। चर्चा के दौरान सांसदों ने समाधान प्रक्रिया में प्रभावित लघु और मध्यम उद्योगों के हितों को लेकर चिंता जताई। साथ ही मांग की कि इन उद्यमों को धन की दिक्कत नहीं होने दी जाए। आइए देखते हैं चर्चा के महत्वपूर्ण अंश।
Mr. Magesh Podar.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, sir. Sir, Jairam Ramesh ji very rightly said that we are going through a learning process. It's a new law, new provision. And let's go back कि पहले के ज़माने में जब उद्योग बंद होते थे या बीमार होते थे तो क्या होता था। देयर वाज ए टाइम कि या तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट उनको टेक ओवर करते थे या केंद्र सरकार के ऊपर दबाव होता था कि वो टेक ओवर कर लो, और उसके बाद में कुछ हज़ार करोड़ रुपए और चले जाते थे और अल्टीमेटली लोग रोज़गार गंवा देते थे और सारे कुछ बंद हो जाते थे। महोदय, मैं पुराने बिहार से आया हूँ। वहाँ पे हमारे पास डालमिया नगर एक जगह होता था जहाँ पे हमारे पास में सीमेंट उद्योग, कागज़ उद्योग, इंजीनियरिंग उद्योग और पता नहीं क्या क्या उद्योग थे। लेकिन आज वो पूरा शहर भूतहा हो रखा है, वहाँ पे कोई बस्ती नहीं है, सारे लोग भूखे मर रहे हैं। इस तरह की मैं सोचता हूँ कि क्या उस समय एक IBC आता या इस तरह का कोई प्रावधान आता या होता तो क्या वो उद्योग आज चल नहीं रहा था, क्या वो बिहार को आगे और तरक्की के रास्ते में नहीं बढ़ाता। महोदय, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अभी हाल ही में कहा है कि उन्होंने नए रास्ते की बात की है और पुराने जड़ विचारों को कैद से आज़ादी की बात कही है। आई थिंक दिस कानून इज़ ऑल्सो ए वे फॉरवर्ड इन दैट डायरेक्शन एंड वी विल बी लर्निंग अपने एक्सपीरियंस के आधार पे, अपने नीड के आधार पे दिस विल बी अमेंडेड फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम। महोदय, देर आर थ्री थिंग्स which are major into this proposed amendment. But before that, we must examine how much this bill or this provision or this act has changed the psyche of the Indian industry. Mahoday, there are number of examples which Jairamji would have mentioned, that there are number of examples where the resolutions have happened without reaching the resolution professional or without reaching the IBC. It has happened without going to NCLT. Many resolutions have taken place. People want to settle it as soon as possible, and there is a tendency to pay back the loan, and also to stop extravagant expansions and to stop lot of discipline has come into the system. Mahoday, दो चीज़ है. I am a part of the finance committee which Jairamji mentioned, and we discussed at length about the provisions of litigants for additional threshold for certain creditors, that is particularly home buyers. It is true that home buyers need to be protected, there is no dispute about it. But then if one home buyer is affected, and because of him and because of his litigation, if thousands of home buyers are affected, the government has to take note of that also. And I think the experience has told that this is what is happening. Sir, it was very much clarified there that अगर कोई पूरे group एक builder कोई भी बड़ा builder है, if there is a single person files a case against that particular company or particular group, all the activities will come to a halt. This is not a good thing. So very rightly it has been given that there should be, it should not be very easy that anybody can file the petition and then the whole thing comes to a halt. It should not happen like that. And house building is a priority of our country today. So it should be promoted. It should not be stopped. And that is the spirit. Secondly, he said very rightly, and I am all for the support of MSME sector. And yes, it is true that if any unit falls sick, the first and the worst sufferers are the MSME units. But we must not forget a fact that these MSME suppliers, service suppliers or the goods suppliers are very much dependent on that mother unit. And they are very happy if somehow those mother units keep running. Because if they stop, I also die. So I want that at any cost, it should keep running. Yes, it is true that they will be forced to supply, but now the provision is that critical suppliers. Sir, in any industry, there are many products, many spares, which are proprietary to a particular company. If that particular spare or component is not supplied by the supplier who has to receive money, let's agree that, then that whole unit will come to a stop. This is not the intention. The basic intent, what I understand under IBC, is that the unit should keep running. It should not stop at any cost. So whatever is a reason or maybe a cause to stop the unit, uska humko intijam karna padega, and that is what this provision is for. And now, as far as MSME is concerned, I think there is some provision under MSME Act which I have requested earlier also to the Finance Minister, and I'm sure they would be considering something about it. But at the same time, I know from MSME point of view, I can say that they would be very happy that even if the past payment is stuck up, the current supplies are received, they would be happy. Sir, there is assurance that they have to continue supplying only if the current dues are paid. So this kind of assurance was not there earlier. I think this is a very good assurance. Now, what kind of assurance it will be? Maybe they will supply against the letter of credit. Maybe they will supply against the bank guarantees. And the banks, since the banks are party to the running the unit, so they would be happy to extend that. And third one is, sir, that yes, it has been informed that in many foreign countries, there are different provisions, type of protection, like if a factory has some factory license, the old promoter's name is there as a director and occupier. Now, suppose that suddenly it is taken over by a resolution professional and the old director's name is there in the factory license. If the license is stopped, the factory will stop operation. So very rightly it has been identified. This is what I said. Out of the experience, we have to make the changes, and very rightly these proposals are being done. And we have also seen in some of the cases, the past management has done many things which are not in compliance with the law, and many cases are pending against that. Now, a new person who takes over for whatever cost and under whatever scheme, suppose that he is also subject to prosecution under those laws. Believe me, sir, nobody will touch that unit. So it is obviously, you have to protect the current management from the past mistakes, what has been done, and past prosecutions and other things. Now, in the end, I'll say, sir, that IBC is not the current amendment is not the end. There will be many experiences, many things, new things will come. But I must congratulate the government, and the numbers what Jairamji has said, it is true that the realization may be poor, but or may not be up to the expectation. But the fact remains that these units are running. The jobs are there. The suppliers are supplying. And it is contributing to the national economy. With this, I support this bill, and I request the House to accept these amendments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Magesh ji.
दिवाला और शोधन अक्षमता संहिता को 2016 में लागू किया गया था। तब से आईबीसी में सुधार के लिए 3 बार अध्यादेश और 4 बार संशोधन आ चुके हैं। वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण ने कहा कि विकास के साथ कदमताल करने के लिए विधेयक में संशोधन किया जा रहा है। उन्होंने ये भी आश्वासन दिया कि आईबीसी के विभिन्न संशोधनों और अध्यादेश न्यायालय के निर्णय के अनुरूप है। संसद संवाद के अगले अंक में हम फिर हाजिर होंगे बाकी सांसदों की राय और वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण के जवाब के साथ। तब तक के लिए इजाजत दीजिए। नमस्कार।
An MSME sector who is the operational creditor who is supplying certain things, it itself may be under stress because it has not received the payments, past dues, and whether it would be able to supply again, even if there is a performance guarantee given, is something it has to be considered, because otherwise it itself will get into NCLT.